Hello everyone. This is a short video on how to conduct research. So hopefully now you can see my screen being shared. The purpose of this video is to help students in a quick, short, succinct manner be able to know how to conduct research for research projects of all various types of assignments that you might have over the course of a semester. Specifically, there are going to be two things that I hope to help you understand by the end of this video. Number one, to be able to answer the question, why should a person cite research in the first place? And second, to be able to talk about once you have to do research, where can you find it? And so just jumping right in, there's a few questions that I'd like you to consider. The first one is a very general question. Why should a person cite research in the first place? Okay, and as you think about that, I want you to actually pause the video for just a moment as you think about a few of these other questions as well. More specifically, why do you think such a heavy emphasis is placed on providing and citing research? Question two, what benefits are there to citing research? And three, what consequences are there when you fail to cite research? So again, pause the video for just a moment and think to yourself a few of the answers to these questions and see what you believe. Now, I would like to offer you a few quick reasons, just a short synopsis of some of the bigger ideas for why we cite research in the first place. Number one, and one of the most important to me, is it builds your credibility as a speaker. You show your audience that you're competent or you know how to do good work. You show them that you have good character or that you're a good person willing to go above and beyond to give them research because that's just who you are. And finally, it shows people that you care about them. You're putting in time to help them live better lives. All three of these things help you be more credible, or in other words, show that you are the qualified person for this topic. Now, another reason to cite research is that it gives credit to other people. People put in a lot of times for some of the work and the projects that they do, and they save us a lot of time so we don't have to go out and do that work ourselves. And so we're helping, trying not to steal their work for sure, but really just being a good person again and saying, hey, this person did this cool project. Here is what they did and where you can find them to support those people. Now, a third reason, and this is the one that most people tend to think about when they answer these questions for me, is that you're not supposed to not cite research, or you get in trouble, you get plagiarism issues, or you get fired from work. And the truth is, yes, those are true good reasons. They're not the only ones, and in my opinion, the two above this are much more valuable, but yes, we want to stay out of trouble too. We don't want to get into academic trouble because we're failing to cite research and the teachers think we're stealing work or something like that. But more importantly, in the real world, if you fail to cite where you're getting your work or you don't do it in the proper manner, there are legal repercussions that can happen. And so citing our work largely helps us avoid many of those issues that we don't want to deal with in our lives. Now, one final reason, and this is the biggest one to me, of why you should cite research is for your audience. They are giving us the time of day to be able to offer our arguments for why they should or shouldn't do something, why they should know about a topic, why they should believe something. Let's honor that time and let's help them to be able to know all the information we're using so that they don't just have to take our word for something, but they can actually go and look up all of this information themselves so that they can live better lives as a result of the work that we conduct for them. Because as this class has largely tried to stress, we're doing all this for our audience, right? So why not cite research for them as well to help them in this way too? So those are the big questions for why we conduct research. Now, one other big thing to talk about is how do we conduct research? Where specifically do we find it? Now, on this single slide here, I've given you a bunch of different ways to go about finding research, different types of research you might look for. And so just jumping up at the top, if you need to find academic peer-reviewed research, there are two large places I would recommend that you go. And so I'm going to just back out here for a moment and show you the first one, Google Scholar. If you just type in scholar.google.com. Basically, you're going to be brought up to Google's form of an academic database where you can find research on all sorts of different topics that have been scientifically investigated by the community. So you can see, for instance, I'm using this later in the video. I typed in humor homophily West to find one of my articles. But let's just say, for instance, you wanted to look up something like, deception. Maybe you want to give a presentation or conduct a research paper on something about deception. Well, just that one word alone can give you over 1 million different academic articles on the topic of deception within seconds. Google Scholar is my first starting point for looking up research always, purely for the amount of work that you get. Now, you'll never go through 1 million results, but it's nice to know that you have them there, and Google does a pretty good job of giving us exactly what we're looking for. But another option is you can use Academic Search Ultimate, which comes from our library database. Okay, so if you come to your Snow College library, for instance, and you scroll down to databases, what you're going to find is we actually have quite a few available to you. Every one of these databases has thousands upon thousands of articles and other bits of information that are useful. So I'm scrolling through pretty fast just to give you an idea of how many we have available to you. But what's interesting is you don't have to scroll very far to find the one I would recommend, Academic Search Ultimate. When you click into Academic Search Ultimate, you basically get something that looks like a Google search bar. And again, so let's just say I typed in deception just to keep things similar. We don't get 1 million like Google Scholar, but we do still get 19,000 of them. Now, one big recommendation, if you're going to use Academic Search Ultimate, make sure that you have full text, the little checkbox over here clicked, so that you can read things right then and there when you're doing your research. But also make sure that you click the peer review button, because what you're going to see is our 19,000 articles actually just dropped down to 5,000 articles. You had 3/4 of the things you could have clicked on in this database would not have gotten you credit for finding academic peer-reviewed work for your assignment. Clicking that little peer-reviewed button ensures that all 5,000 of these articles that you could read are the type of research that you are looking for your assignment. So in the case of finding these academic peer-reviewed research, these two areas, Google Scholar and Academic Search Premier, are the two that I would highly recommend. They'll save you the most time. They're the easiest for you to be able to access. But other things besides academic peer-reviewed research is also available for you to do. For instance, you could look at data sets. Okay, Datagov, Statista, Pew Research Center. Let me just show you here. Let me clear up some tabs. So you could come to, for instance, data.gov, and you could find things like US Census data. Do you want to see what our most recent US Census provided to us? All sorts of different data and statistics. Well, they house it right here. And this is actually USA.gov. Data.gov was the one I listed on the slides. Manufacturing and trade inventory sales. Let's just type in manufacturing. Oops, I misspell it. I actually was looking at data.gov a little bit before this video, and I wasn't able to find anything that came up. And I'm going to attribute that to I just wanted to make a video. And I'm going to assume there's some server issues that are going on here. So when data.gov works, normally you can click in your topic and it'll give you a series of different areas that you can search that has data. But I'm going to give you the one I prefer, Statista. Okay, if you type in, for instance, let's say humor is something I'm interested in, and I search Statista here. Now it's taking a moment to load because what it's doing is it's pulling from thousands upon thousands of different databases of information, trying to find you the most applicable statistical stuff related to whatever it is that you've entered. And so while it's loading, I'm going to go and look at our third recommendation I have for you, Pew Research Center. Pew Research Center is another group that does a lot of research-based projects. Now, when you come to their main website and you just come over, you can actually click their research topics and click full topic list. Pew Research is a little bit more broad. You won't be able to type in exactly, for instance, humor. They don't do a really good job of individualized products. But what you can find are there's a lot of different topics that you could then explore to see, oh, what kind of research has been conducted on this particular issue recently. So for instance, maybe I wanted to look at, let's just go to religion and government. What's happened there? Oh, 10 facts about religion and government. Key findings about restrictions on religion around the world in 2019. And you can explore these topics, and usually they will give you research that was conducted where you can now utilize this in your discussion. Looks like statistics down too. Never try to make a video and wing the findings. But I'll give Statista one more try. Statista is actually not currently available at Snow College, but I've already sent in the request to get the library to approve it because it's such a valuable program. Okay, but regardless of if any of our data websites are working right now, these particular places provide you actual statistics and findings that you can then use to support your arguments, okay, your claims that you're using. Now, the final place I just recommend finding research to support yourself is actually simply from reading other people's work. So when you find one article that you like, for instance, maybe from Google Scholar, don't just read the article and be done with it. For instance, if you did find an article, like I'm just going to use my own because it's easy for me, I know what's in it. Let's say you wanted to research humor. And in this very first paragraph, you're going to find that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different citations of different articles that this single article is using to support itself. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. West and Martin have already done this for us in this paper. And if you scroll down, so for instance, we see Banis, Dunbar, Rodriguez, and Louis, 2011. If you scroll down to the end, what you'll find is a series of references that the authors have provided for you to save you time and make your life easier. And here's our Banis, Dunbar, Rodriguez, Louis, 2011. With the DOI, you could just click this and it would load and give you access to the article so you could read it yourself. Now, notice West's article. Here's 1 page, 2 page, 3 page, 4 page, 5 pages of sources that you can use to support yourself. Most of your average undergraduate college papers, projects that you'll ever have to do would require you to use 3 to maybe 10 citations tops. Well, there is way more than you need in one single paper's worth of references. And so being able to read others' work, cite them, and cite the people they're citing is going to save you a lot of work in the long run. No sense going out and having to track down a whole bunch of your own research if somebody else has already done that work for you. So utilize them to your benefit. Okay, but the important part, and you'll notice here I say it's not plagiarism if you cite the primary sources. Well, what is the difference between a primary and a secondary source? Now, the answer to that is anytime you hear somebody talking about primary versus secondary sources, they're talking about, are you referring to the actual people that you read, or are you referring to somebody who talked about somebody who talked about somebody? You know, your friend's cousin, sister once said. When you give a primary source, you are saying, I read Baker 2017 and they found. That's a primary source. You read Baker and now you're saying what Baker said. But one issue a lot of students have is they might read Allen, for instance, and Allen talks about what Baker said, but they quote Baker as saying it without ever actually reading Baker themselves. One, that's an issue because now you don't even know if Baker actually said it, and you could get into issue problems and trouble that way. But two, if you do this correctly, where you cite a secondary source, Allen 2018 reported that Baker 2017 found, you can see where that starts to feel a lot like my sister's brother's cousins once said. Again, secondary sources are okay if you have to use them, but you're going to largely want to go to the primary source when you can. And so through the course of this short little video, we've talked about two large things. Number one, why should we cite research in the first place? And the arguments I've offered you are that one, it builds your credibility. Two, it allows other people to receive credit for their work. And three, it keeps us out of trouble. But most importantly, out of all that we're doing this for, it is to help our readers, our audience, be able to make better decisions and have access to information that we use to make our arguments. We're doing this for them. As we talked about our second point, there are many different places you can find research. I'm sorry that quite a few of them didn't end up working in this video. I guess that's life, but you can pause, you can come back. I'll even click it right here for a second. Oh, right here for a second. There are many places you can go depending if you're looking for academic work, if you're looking for data sets, or if you're just looking for ideas that other people have used that have been successful. There are lots of places to find work to use and cite in your own work. Once you understand how to do that, where to find them, you have the power to make the decisions that you want and need to make to support yourself. And so with that, I hope this video helped you be able to understand how and where to research, and most importantly, why. And with that, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I hope that you have a good day.